Welcome kapatid to our series on how to answer law school and bar problems. Today we are taking a look at a problem from the 2022 bar exam. I'll be showing you precisely how to answer a problem, how to be responsive to a problem, and how you can also arrive at an elegant and precise answer all on your own. All of this and more coming right up. Hi, my name is Lex and welcome to Lex in Motion. In this channel, I'll be helping you build your competence, confidence, and capability in law school. Start today by hitting the subscribe button below. New episodes are posted every Friday. Without further ado, let us now begin with the problem from the 2022 bar examination. I'll be showing it on your screen right now. The first step in answering every problem is to take a deep breath. Find a way to calm yourself down. Don't look at the problem, don't look at your screen. Ipikit mo ang iyong mga mata kapatid at huminga ka lang muna ng malalim. The second step is to take another deep breath. As you exhale, know and understand that however way you're going to answer this next problem really is not going to matter. Tuldok lang ito kapatid. It is a dot, a speck, minutiae in the great grand story of your law school journey. And as you exhale, envision yourself passing your exam, passing the bar exam, taking the oath and what you'll be wearing on your roll signing. Now, you are ready to look at the problem. The third step is to read the last sentence, then the second to the last sentence, and then the two sentences together. If what you see at the end of the problem are phrases like explain briefly or discuss fully, feel free to include these with the last sentence. We do this, kapatid, in order for us to zero in on the problem. We can only be responsive if we know exactly what is being asked. We skip ahead to the last sentence because this is where the question is usually found. Remember, we can only be responsive if we know exactly what is being asked. Let's look at the last sentence of the problem. Is Joben guilty of violating Section 10A of Republic Act No. 7610 for other acts of child abuse? Explain briefly. Let's read the second to the last sentence of the problem for more clues. Later that day, Paula and Gina narrated the incident to their parents and said that they were ashamed of going back to school. These two sentences together should automatically trigger in your head the catch-all provision under Republic Act No. 7610. Ibig sabihin kapatid, kung hindi mo na alam kung ano ang ikakaso o saan papasok ang nagawa ng akusado, pero sigurado kang meron namang child abuse na nangyari dahil mga bata ang mga biktima, ay sa Section 10A ang ating punta. The fourth step is for us to identify what is being asked in this problem. This is your guiding star. Ito at ito lang talaga ang maaari nating mabalikan kung sakaling tayo ay nalunod na sa mga facts at arguments ng ating examiner. What is being asked in this problem? Here, the examiner is asking whether or not Joben is guilty of violating Section 10A of Republic Act No. 7610. The next step is for us to identify the rule, concept, provision, or doctrine that is being asked in the problem. The master key to being hyper-responsive is by identifying the exact rule, provision, concept, or doctrine upon which the examiner has built the problem. If we can reverse engineer how the problem was drafted in the first place, then it gives us the fighting chance to give the precise answer that the examiner is looking for. Dito sa problem na ito kapatid, ano kaya ang sinusubukan sa atin ng ating examiner? What is the rule, concept, provision, or doctrine that is being tested in this problem? If what is being tested is still unclear to you based only on the last two sentences, then feel free to come back to this after the next step. Here, what is being tested is our understanding of the concept of child abuse. Child abuse refers to the maltreatment, whether habitual or not, of any child. It can mean one single act or a series of acts that have been going on for quite some time. Child abuse covers psychological and physical abuse, neglect, cruelty, sexual abuse, and emotional maltreatment. It also includes any act, by deeds or words, which debases, degrades, or demeans the intrinsic worth and dignity of a child as a human being. Child abuse includes positive acts, meaning things that people do. And it also includes acts of omission, such as the unreasonable deprivation of a child's basic needs for survival, such as food and shelter, or failure to immediately give medical treatment to an injured child, resulting in serious impairment of his or her growth and development, or in his or her permanent incapacity or death. The next step now, kapatid, is for us to read the problem from start to finish. We will look for bits and pieces, anything really, that will help us answer the question. We will go over the problem line by line and look for clues that might help us give to the examiner the answer he or she wants. If you see an actor, mark it. If you see the actor's action, mark it. If you think something might be relevant, then mark it. All others we can safely ignore as noise. I hope I'm still making sense so far. Let's begin reading the problem from start to finish. Joben, a school principal, called high school students Paula and Gina, both 15 years old, to the faculty room regarding the sexual text message circulating around campus which made reference to Joben's daughter. In front of teachers and some students, Joben shouted at Paula and Gina, asking them who sent the said text message. Joben also threatened to sue them and said, "Siguro nainggit kayo sa anak ko kasi maganda siya, matalino at mayaman. Sabihin nyo kasi sa mga magulang nyo, magsumikap sila para maging mayaman din kayo, di yung tatamad-tamad." Joben then raised her middle finger in front of Paula and Gina, saying mga burikat or whore. Later that day, Paula and Gina narrated the incident to their parents and said that they were ashamed of going back to school. Is Joben guilty of violating Section 10A of Republic Act No. 7610 for other acts of child abuse? Explain briefly. The first line is relevant to me because it introduces us to Joben, the accused in our problem. She is a person of authority in relation to the high school students, Paula and Gina. Joben confronted the two girls about a sexual text message that referred to her own daughter. When we break down the problem, we find three actions attached to Joben that might amount to child abuse. The first is the shouting, the second is the threatening, and the third is the dirty finger. For what it's worth, she also said hurtful words that might not necessarily be directed to Paula and Gina, but to their parents. In the next paragraph, the examiner tells us the natural consequences of Joben's action. Ayaw na pumasok sa school ng dalawa dahil siguro sila ay napahiya. Finally, the examiner asks us to determine whether or not Joben committed child abuse under Section 10A of Republic Act No. 7610. After marking our paragraph, it should look like this. Knowing what you now know about the problem, please pause this video and type up your answers in the comment section. This is the only way for me to gauge your answers, and I will try to respond as best as I can. Libre dito ang magkamali, kapatid. Hindi mo ito ikakabagsak dahil hindi mo ako professor at hindi rin kita estudyante. Huwag kang matatakot na magkakamali dito, kapatid, kung ikakatama mo naman sa iyong quiz at midterms o maging iyong bar exam. This problem is a good illustration of the technique I call leading. Leading is the process of dropping as many bits and pieces of information for a student to reach a particular conclusion or maintain a particular position or to support a given argument. Leading is all about baiting the student to give the incorrect answer. It works best against students who are prepared, who are ready, but not at 100%. Okay lang yan, kapatid, kung hindi ka tinatablan ng leading, lalo na kung wala ka pa sa kalahati ng iyong naaaral para sa inyong quiz o exam. Leading puts the student into a position where he or she seems to have no other choice but to agree with the position, the argument, or the conclusion that the examiner has laid down before you. On the flip side, our instincts tell us that this position is wrong, much like the story of Hansel and Gretel, when they were led to the hut or the house of the evil witch who eats little children. Leading also preys on our natural tendency to overthink our own answers. When you face questions where the examiner uses the technique of leading, my advice is for you to follow your gut instinct. If the answer is too easy, it's probably incorrect. The answer might be found in some obscure case or some exception that may not have been necessarily covered in your classes. Here, the examiner goes out of his or her way to tell us that the confrontation was not a private one. It happened not in the office of Joben, but in the presence of teachers and students who were all in the faculty room. The examiner is quick to point out that Paula and Gina no longer wanted to go back to school after the incident. In Bongalon versus People, the Supreme Court teaches us that when there is a confrontation between a child and an adult, and that such confrontation happens at the spur of a moment, then it becomes incumbent upon the prosecution to prove that the accused had the specific intention to debase, degrade, or demean the intrinsic dignity of the child. Debasement is defined as the act of reducing the value, quality, or purity of something. Degradation, on the other hand, is a lessening of a person's or thing's character or quality, while demean means to lower in status, condition, reputation, or character. This intention can be inferred from the manner in which the offender committed the act or acts complained of, specifically when the offender's use of force against the child was calculated, violent, excessive, or done without any provocation. So, we begin our suggested answer with no, Joben is not guilty of violating Section 10A of the Republic Act No. 7610. Notice, kapatid, that we began our suggested answer with in this problem. Masakit sa mata ang mabasa ang in the case at bar dahil wala naman tayo sa korte at ito ay isang academic exercise. Hindi mo yun ikinakatalino, kapatid. Pwedeng-pwede na rin kami sa here, dahil madali lang itong dot-dotin sa iyong keyboard. I hope I'm still making sense. Next, we need to write our legal basis. The law does not require that you cite the entire provision of the law. All that matters is you write the most relevant portions of the law. Under our criminal laws, conviction will only lie if and only if the prosecution has proven that the accused had the specific intent to debase, degrade, or demean the intrinsic worth of a child. Notice, kapatid, that I have used the precise language of the law. The law demands precision in everything we do. However, I have taken the liberty of not writing the entirety of the provision. Doon lang tayo sa relevant, mahalaga, at magagamit natin sa susunod na paragraph. Our next line is our most important paragraph, our arguments. This is where you have to argue. Ilaban mo yan, kapatid. You cannot parrot back to the examiner the facts that he or she has written down. Wala siyang paki dito, kapatid, dahil siya ang nagsulat ng problem. Malamang sa malamang ay alam din naman niya ang kwento nito. In this next line, we have to tell the examiner why we have taken this position and why we have chosen this legal basis. We have to give back to the examiner what he or she needs. It's our chance to say, I see what you did there. We do this by arguing why we are correct. In effect, we need to sell to the examiner why we are correct. You can land at the correct answer, kapatid, pero kung hindi mo naman ito maibebenta, kung hindi mo naman makukumbinsi ang examiner na tama ka, ay wala ka na rin pinagkaiba sa ilang libong sagot na dadaan lang sa kanyang mga mata. We stand out by first being hyper-responsive to the problem, and second, through our eloquence. This begins by laying down the strongest argument. What is our strongest argument here? The strongest argument here is that Joben had no specific intention to degrade, debase, or demean the intrinsic dignity of Paula and Gina as children. She was merely out there to find out who spread the malicious messages about her daughter. The confrontation happened spontaneously and was not pre-planned. Joben did not go out of her way to hurt their feelings specifically because they were children. Now, how do we say all of this in the simplest, most concise manner possible? In this problem, Joben is not guilty of other acts of child abuse because her words were uttered out of anger and frustration. There appears to be no intention to debase, degrade, or demean Paula and Gina. Notice kapatid that we began our suggested answer with in this problem. Masakit sa mata ang mabasa ang in the case at bar dahil wala naman tayo sa korte at ito ay isang academic exercise. Hindi mo yun ikinakatalino kapatid. Pwedeng-pwede na rin kami sa here, dahil madali lang itong dot-dotin sa iyong keyboard. I hope I'm still making sense so far. Next, you need to phrase your answer in the form of an argument. You are in law school because you are hoping that someday, one day, you will be a lawyer. At a certain point in your life, kapatid, you will be arguing for a living. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na maging palaaway ka, kapatid. Arguing means convincing your professor, your examiner, or the courts on the merits of your position. Arguing means selling your position and convincing your professor of the correctness of your answer. In your third paragraph, you need to argue. Hindi ka pwedeng umulit lang ng facts. Wala ka nang magiging kaibahan sa ilang libong booklet o answer sheet na dadaan lang sa mata ng mga examiner. Dapat kapag binasa ng professor mo ang sagot mo, masasabi niya na magiging abogada ang batang are. With our conclusion, the suggested answer should look like this. No, Joben is not guilty of violating Section 10A of Republic Act No. 7016. Under our criminal laws, conviction will only lie if and only if the prosecution has proven that the accused had the specific intent to debase, degrade, or demean the intrinsic worth of the child. In this problem, Joben is not guilty of other acts of child abuse because her words were uttered out of anger and frustration. There appears to be no intention to debase, degrade, or demean Paula and Gina. For these reasons, Joben cannot be convicted of other acts of child abuse. The worst mistake you can make in a conclusion is to simply repeat your opening statement. This would be a waste of your examiners or professors' precious time and attention. Marami ring hindi na lang nagsusulat ng conclusion dahil ayaw na lang nilang umulit lang ng first sentence. When you don't know what to write, focus on the fruits, effects, and results. Assuming that your answer is correct. Ano kaya ngayon? Salamat kapatid at sinamahan mo ako sa ilang minuto na tayo ay nagsagot ng isang bar exam problem. I will be doing my best to respond to all of your answers in the comments and give you timely feedback. Sana at kahit papano ay may natutunan ka. The means and methods I've discussed here are all contained in our digital workbook 8, 101 practice problems for lost law students and bar takers. Here you will be tasked with answering about 105 bar problems spread out in various bar subjects. All of the answers here are broken down, explained, and discussed in much greater detail than what we have done here. You will also learn about how examiners draft their problems, where questions come from, and how to predict with a reasonable degree of accuracy the problems that might come out in your midterm and final exams. In this workbook, I've also discussed the common tactics that professors use to confuse law students and baristas. At ano ang pwedeng pangontra sa mga tactics nila? Narito rin ang mga typical na mali ng mga law students sa kanilang mga sagot at kung paano natin ito gagamutin. Follow along the journey as we help you take your answers from miserable to elegante. Grab your copy of 101 practice problems for law students and bar takers through the links in the description box below. If you would like to see more episodes on how to answer law school exams and bar problems, please let me know by typing yes in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like and share this video for good law school karma, and I will see you next Friday.